Hey, hope you're well. In this video we're going to take a look at some Lidl Parkside cordless 12-volt tools, including this planer that looks suspiciously like a Bosch. So Lidl's 12-volt cordless tools have been around for a little while. I remember Dave at Grumpy's workshop doing a video about the drill driver and the multi-tool about a year or so ago. I'll link that video up down below. I got a message off my Instagram pal Adam, the Welsh woodworker, to ask me if I'd seen the cordless planer, because it does look an awful lot like the Bosch cordless planer, 12-volt planer. I hadn't, but I thought it was worth taking a closer look. I went round to my local Lidl, I bought one of these, I picked up a drill driver, and also got this little cordless grinder as well. I'm going to take a quick look at each of these today, but before we get to that, let's have a quick look at the 12-volt battery platform from Lidl's Parkside tools. So if you don't know the story, around about 2005-2006, Bosch and Makita introduced a range of 10.8 volt drills and drivers, lighter weight, smaller tools using a smaller sort of inline battery like this one. They proved to be very popular with installers because you don't need a big 18 volt drill or driver to fit kitchen cabinet hinges, for example. And as time wore on, this one's from 2008, I think it is, yeah. As time wore on, the range of tools grew as the battery tech got better. I standardized on Bosch 10.8 volt drills and drivers, and of course, as time goes on, the marketing people get involved as well, and they become 12 volt suddenly. And this is where we get to the Lidl Parkside range of 12 volt batteries and chargers. The batteries are visually very similar to the Bosch, but they are not the same. The connectors are different, and the Parkside batteries will not fit in your Bosch tools or vice versa. So you will not be able to pick up some cheap and cheerful Parkside batteries for your Bosch 10.8 volt drills or 12 volt drills, unfortunately. The batteries from Parkside are available in two sizes. There's a standard inline 2 amp like this, and there's a larger 4 amp battery, just as there is on the Bosch platform as well. Parkside batteries come either as a bare battery or with a battery and charger. The 2 amp battery and charger is £20 or just under, penny under. The 2 amp battery on its own is £12, and the 4 amp battery on its own is £23. There's no option to get a 4 amp battery bundled with a charger, and there doesn't seem to be a charger available on its own. Both battery capacities charge in the same charger, and they both charge pretty quickly, obviously with a 4 amp taking that a little bit longer because it's got a bigger fuel tank to fill. Which battery you go with very much depends on what tool you're using it with. In my experience, anything that involves cutting, you're much better off with a 4 amp battery. I had a 10.8 volt Bosch multi-tool that sucked the life out of a battery faster than anything I'd ever seen before. So generally speaking, 4 amps good for anything that cuts. 2 amp is fine for drills and drivers and that kind of thing, or for other tools just for a short period. So talking of other tools, let's take a quick look at what else I picked up while I was in the middle aisle. Firstly, there's this little cordless grinder. It is a teensy little thing with just a 3-inch or 76mm cutting disc, obviously limited in capacity and oomph, but sometimes that's all you need, especially if you're cutting thin metal. For example, the core of a roller blind, that thin alloy tube was always a pain to cut with a hacksaw, as it would collapse in on itself with each stroke. Something like this little cordless grinder would have been perfect to have in the van or toolbox for just that situation. And at just a penny short of £20 for the bare tool, it's a worthwhile purchase even if you have just the occasional need. Me and Mrs. 10 Minutes have just moved out of our house pending some building work, so I'm doing a lot of roller blinds at the moment, and this has already proved to be the perfect tool for that task. Drill driver next, and this is an interesting one. On the face of it, a fairly standard 12 volt drill driver, albeit with a very nice all metal 10mm chuck. It feels good in the hand, and at just £17 for the bare tool, great value too. The chuck is interesting though, as it has a similar quick release collar to the Festool Systainer that makes removing the chuck really easy. Now these chucks aren't compatible with the Systainer, and I'm not aware of Lidl making any additional chucks like a right angle chuck, for example. In which case, kind of what's the point? Well, like on the Festool drills and drivers, you can pop a regular hex bit into the end of the motor spindle, and when you do that it feels like it goes in a long way. Well, that's because you can actually keep the bit in there with the Jacobs chuck fitted. So you have a perfect way to, say, drill a pilot hole, then quickly remove the chuck and drive in a screw, all without having to remove the bit from the chuck. Now, while the chuck isn't the most concentric I've ever used, it's also far from the worst and leaps ahead of most other third-party quick bit change systems. And of course, you don't have to stow the bit in the end of the motor. You can use a longer hex bit or a regular bit holder if you need a bit more distance from the screw to the workpiece. Now finally, let's take a look at that cordless planer. It really is a dead ringer visually for the Bosch 12 volt planer, and in terms of specification too, same 12 volt battery supply, same 56mm wide base, same 17mm maximum rebate, same 2mm depth of cut, same size, same weight. Unlike the Bosch and the Parkside mini grinder I mentioned before, the motor is also brushless. It has an 8-stage click-stop depth of cut adjuster, so I assume that's a 1/4 millimeter increase with each click, and the reversible dust extraction port works very well. It's lightweight in every sense and none the worse for that, and will be a perfect small planer for those little jobs during an install, say trimming an end panel where you need a decent finish on a laminate or veneered board. The real surprise of this is the price though, at just £40 for the bare tool. That's less than a quarter of the street price for the bare Bosch planer. Even when you add in a 2 amp hour battery and charger and the beefier 4 amp hour battery too, you're still at less than half the price of the Bosch for the bare planer. Now let's be serious, I'm not suggesting for a second that this is the equivalent of a Bosch planer, but with a 3-year warranty on this and all the previously mentioned tools, then if you're in the market for a small cordless tool for home or for occasional use on a job site, or maybe as a second in the van installs kit, then I think the Parkside 12 volt cordless range should definitely be on your radar. I bought these tools for exactly that situation, a second set to have in the rental property we're in. They're in the middle of Lidl this week, you know how that works. When they're gone, they're gone. So if you're interested, I'd get down there pronto. I'll call this one done for now though. Thanks so much for taking a look. And thanks again to Adam, the Welsh woodworker on Instagram, for pointing out that planer to me. If you'd like a heads up on these finds before they become public knowledge, along with access to ad-free versions of the public-facing videos and other exclusive content too, then do consider becoming a 10 Minute Workshop Plus member. There's more details down below and at 10minuteworkshop.com, or sign up directly at 10minuteworkshop.plus. But I'll call this one done for now. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'll see you again very soon.